On a sunny and hot Thursday afternoon. Welcome on in to the Bullpen. I am your host, Adam the Bull, and this is another live episode of the Bullpen every Thursday at 2. I know we went nighttime last week, but back to the normal time of 2 p.m. today. Jump in on the chat. I'll be reading all your questions and comments as we get started here, and I'll answer, if I can, any questions you may ask. I'm going to do a lot of football today. We'll do some Guardians as well. Cavs still looking for a new head coach. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty on that with the draft 13 days away and free agency just a few weeks away. But mostly Browns talk today. This podcast, as always, the live edition, brought to you by BetRivers. If you're not using the BetRivers app, I'm not sure what you're doing. The BetRivers app is the best in the business. See the latest odds for daily games, of course, but also check out season stats, future odds. All that is available, of course, in a very easy-to-use BetRivers app. I'll have a new parlay out for you tomorrow. So, stand by for that. Tuesdays and Fridays, the parlays come out. All right, again, I'll get to some little bit of Guardians later, but I wanted to start with the NFL. The Browns got their mini camps wrapping up this week, and Deshaun Watson has been a big part of it. A couple of weeks ago, we weren't sure if Deshaun Watson was going to throw at all over this stretch of time, off-season mini camps, OTAs, and that stuff. And he has. And the reason you weren't sure is because he suffered an injury last year that was pretty much unprecedented in the NFL. It's an injury that happens in baseball. We've not really seen it in the NFL. And it was really questionable what the timeline for recovery was and is for Deshaun Watson. And so when you have an injury with a lot of unknowns, well, you don't know if a guy's going to throw. And Deshaun, to his credit, has been part of all the offseason activities. And it reminds me because the two most talked about quarterbacks this offseason, and I've stopped watching, First Take and Get Up, whatever it is, or all these shows. I don't really watch them anymore. I feel like they're not entertaining to me. They repeat the same things over and over again. I try not to do that. Maybe I do that. I don't know, but I try not to do that. I try to be original when I come to you with a podcast as often as possible. Obviously, you talk about Deshaun Watson a lot, but I try to come at it from a different angle every time we do. But, just from social media and whatever, the two most talked about quarterbacks this offseason have been Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers. Or I'll say they've been the two most talked about of late. Earlier in the offseason, obviously you had the Russell Wilson trade and guys changing teams and rookie quarterbacks. But lately, when it comes to the offseason activity portion, there's been a lot of talk about Deshaun Watson and a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers. And why is that? Well, there's a pretty simple answer. One part of it is they bring eyeballs, right? Deshaun Watson is a polarizing figure because of the off the field stuff, and because he was great in Houston and hasn't been great in Cleveland. Aaron Rodgers is a polarizing figure for a variety of reasons. First of all, he plays in New York. Obviously, New York's a big market, and when you do a national TV show, you're trying to attract from the biggest markets. That's just the way it is. We complain about Cleveland doesn't get enough love, and part of it's because they're playing to ratings at the bigger markets, which I get. But Aaron Rodgers is also a polarizing figure because of his conspiracy theories, and he's also a polarizing figure because of the field and things he said and done surrounding his play. And now you add to it the fact that he is 40 years old and coming off an Achilles tear. And I'm going to get back to Deshaun Watson here. To me, though, this offseason, it's so funny because I see some guys I used to work with in New York ripping Aaron Rodgers for not being at this mandatory minicamp. And a lot of fans, like often happens in Cleveland or anywhere else, are defending the player. Not all, but a lot. And if I were working in New York still, I'd be ripping Aaron Rodgers to shreds because I think it's an absolute joke that he's not at mandatory minicamp. He planned a vacation. He's a multimillionaire. Change your vacation. You have to go on vacation during mandatory minicamp week. After this mandatory minicamp, the guys are off for like 5-6 weeks before they got to be in training camp. Why didn't he plan his vacation for late June or early July when he knows that the camps are all, that there's no camp? So he didn't care. It wasn't a priority. And Aaron Rodgers has shown time and time again this offseason that football is not his priority. I mean, that's painfully obvious. When we're going to see that, and you're all going to agree with me, or maybe not, you won't all, but a lot of Browns fans will agree with me, and a lot of fans of other teams will agree with me, and Jet fans, if I were working in New York, would be angry. I don't pick opinions based on what's going to make people happy. I give you my opinion. Sometimes they piss you off. I got to live with that, and I can. As long as I'm keeping it real, I can live with people getting pissed off at me. And so when I make comments about Deshaun Watson, when they first got him and I was excited and it was all positivity, there were people who were mad they got him, and those people, or Baker Bros, and they were mad at me. Or whatever, anybody. Doesn't have to do with me, really. And now vice versa. Whereas now I've been critical of Deshaun Watson, the fact he hasn't played well at all, and I'm not going to pretend he's played well to make people feel better. And so now I'm getting people pissed off at me in the other way. So that's part of this is fans are always going to defend their guy. If Aaron Rodgers was like, I'm sure most of you agree that it's ridiculous that Aaron Rodgers is not in mandatory minicamp. But if Deshaun Watson had blown off mandatory minicamp and I criticized him for that, I'm sure a lot of you would get mad at me and defend him, even though you're not going to probably defend Aaron Rodgers, if you're honest about it, because he's not on your team. He's not your guy. And I would be critical of Deshaun Watson if he missed mandatory minicamp. Very critical, as I am of Aaron Rodgers. I'm just not going to spend much more time talking about Aaron Rodgers because most of the people watching this show right now are interested in the Browns. But I bring up Aaron Rodgers because I think the Jets are a disaster. I am stunned how many people are convinced that Aaron Rodgers is just going to be good this year. I don't get it. I was listening to NFL radio on Sirius for just like 5 minutes yesterday. And I don't even remember who was on. It was it was Charles Davis, who I love. I can't remember the lead host. I forget. This guy's been on a long time. He's a good guy. Good. I feel bad. I can't remember his name. He's like a veteran, sports talk guy on Sirius. You hear him. But I'm drawing on a blank. And they were both super confident that the Jets would win 10 or more games. And I just don't see it. And I don't understand how anybody could look at that as any kind of a sure thing. This assumption that Aaron Rodgers is still a good quarterback, to me, is crazy. No matter how good he was, everybody hits the cliff. And Tom Brady playing at a high level to age 43 is pretty unusual. In fact, it's completely unique. Even the other greats in modern times, like Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, pretty much fell off the cliff at 40 years old, 39. Roethlisberger, Rivers, Ryan, none of these guys played well after 40, if they played after 40. Now, Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying he's 40 years old. He's actually going to turn 41 before the end of the season. So it's technically his age 41 season. He turns 41 in December. Last year he didn't play, obviously, because he tore the Achilles. In 2022 on Green Bay, he was good, but he wasn't great. He threw 12 interceptions that year, the second most of his career. He threw 26 touchdowns that year. in 17 games. His 4.8 touchdown percentage, one of the lowest of his career. So his completion percentage was 64.6%, one of the lowest of his career. He was, a decent quarterback at age 39, turning 40. Excuse me, age 38, turning 39. And you can say, well, the team wasn't that good. Well, that same team last year with Jordan Love looked pretty good. That offense, especially the second half for a guy who had never played before, basically, looked pretty good. They didn't make wholesale changes. Now, I get it. In 2020 and 2021, Aaron Rodgers was still playing like a Hall of Famer. Led the league in touchdowns in 2020. Had a combined 85 touchdowns and 9 picks between 2020 and 2021. Magnificent. Completed during that time almost 70% of his passes. But there was a noticeable drop-off 2 seasons ago. And then last year he's hurt. So now he's with a new team. He's not at minicamp. He's clearly busy with doing interviews about every conspiracy theory on the face of the earth. He's going to turn 41 years old in less than 6 months. And he's coming off an Achilles tear, which is a hard injury to come back from. This idea that he's a sure thing is insane. In fact, I would say it's more likely than not that I think he's much more likely to be not bad, not terrible, but I think he's much more likely to be average than he is to be great. Now, if he is great, kudos to him. I'll give him all the credit in the world. I'll admit I'm wrong. I always do. But he was above average 2 years ago when he was 38 and not coming off an Achilles tear. I understand this Jets team has some talent, but he's a mess and they're a mess. And this offseason's been a disaster. Deshaun Watson, in his first 2 years in Cleveland, been ugly. He's barely played. When he's played, he has mostly played poor. You could hit me with his record. You could hit me with whatever you want. You know the truth, down deep, that Deshaun Watson has been, at best, below average in his 2 years in Cleveland, at best. But what I will give him credit for, first of all, I haven't given up on Deshaun Watson, contrary to popular belief. If Deshaun Watson had never been good, yeah, I would have given up on him by now. But I still don't think it's still not that long ago that he played at such a high level, leading the league in yards per attempt, and yards per pass completion 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that it couldn't happen. He, unlike Aaron Rodgers, is in his 20s. He'll turn 29 in 3 months. And Deshaun Watson, unlike Aaron Rodgers, has done all the right things this offseason. You could hate the guy all you want. You could say he's a bad guy. You could say you don't want to root for him. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. As critical as I have been of Deshaun Watson's play on the field, and I think that's 100% fair, I think off the field and on the field in terms of practice and leadership, I think since last season ended, he's done all the right things. Now, whether that translates into him playing better football this season, whether that translates into him staying healthy and having the opportunity to play better football this season, time will tell. But in my mind, and for my eyes, I think Deshaun Watson has, and again, I don't know everything he's doing. I don't know. I can only judge based on the information I have. I don't know how hard he's working every day in his workouts. I don't know how hard he's studying film. I don't know. How would I possibly know that? But based on the information that I have, the public information, what we've seen, what he said, what we've heard, what he's done that we've been able to see, it's all A+. So while the other controversial quarterback continues to make a buffoon of himself, Aaron Rodgers, abandon his team that's trying to win for the first time in forever. The quarterback in Cleveland has done everything this offseason to say, I haven't played well enough. I need to do more. I need to be confident. I got to get back to the cocky SOB that I was earlier in my career in Houston. I need to bring that guy back. You know, the other day on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, G. Bush and Mikey McNuggets felt like everything he said this year, that confidence, that cockiness is back. I'm not completely convinced yet, but or I'm not convinced that it wasn't already there last year and that there's more this year. But I hope they're right. And I do feel like whenever he's spoken, he has shown the confidence that he needs, at least publicly. I love that he's been at all these offseason camps. He seems to be ingratiating himself to the team. I think that's extremely important. I think the Browns have a good backup quarterback situation led by Jameis Winston, who I think will be a good support player for Deshaun Watson. And, you know, beyond the fact that he's as good a backup quarterback as you can have if you have to play him for some time this year. But Deshaun Watson, I think, has done everything he can to get himself in the best possible position to play. Now, he's got a lot more to do. He doesn't have to be ready yet. The season starts in 3 months. But to this point, I think he's done, based on, again, what I know, everything he's had to do. I think the team has put him in a great position to succeed. They've put an immense amount of talent around him. He knows that it's on him. He understands that. We could say it, and I could say it all day long. Deshaun Watson understands that the difference between the Browns being a playoff team and a Super Bowl contender is his right arm. That's the difference. You could talk about Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and the coaching staff and the offensive line all the livelong day. And not saying that any of those things are not important. But Deshaun Watson's, did I say left arm? He's a righty. Did I say left? I must have said right. Deshaun Watson's right arm. And Deshaun Watson's confidence, his cockiness, his ability to once again play at not an okay level like he did at times the last couple of years, to play at the highest level, to compete with the best quarterbacks. We have not seen that at all. Don't kid yourself. But we need to see it this year. And if Deshaun Watson brings that back, if he is able to be that guy again, the Browns can compete with anyone, including the Kansas City Chiefs. And I believe that in my soul. And he knows it. He knows Deshaun Watson's not a dummy. He knows he's not played well, no matter what stats you want to lie about and con yourself into believing. You may con yourself. Deshaun Watson is not conning himself. It's clear in what he said. He's got to play better. He's got to be better. He's got to be available. And he has to not carry, but he has to lead this team to where they want to go. If the Cleveland Browns are going to get to the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history, if they're going to win a Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history, it's going to be because, or a big part of it is going to be because Deshaun Watson plays at like a top, 10 quarterback. I'll say 10 to keep it easy. That's it. It's that simple. The rest of the team's got to do their part, and you don't win with one guy, but we know what the rest of the team is capable of because they won 11 games with crappy quarterback play last year, including Deshaun Watson. And Flacco played the best football of anybody last year, but we went over the top on how well he played, as he played well, but he also made a ton of mistakes, threw a ton of turnovers. Overall, the Browns got, I'll say, below average quarterback play for the season and still won 11 games. But the goal is not to win double-digit games or make the playoffs. The goal for the good teams is to win the Super Bowl. That's the only goal that matters. The Browns have accomplished nothing. They're a better team. They're a better organization. They've got better personnel, both on the field and in the front office and in the coaching staff, as good, if not better, than they've had in decades. But they've accomplished nothing. And if any player on the Browns feels like they've accomplished something, they've got the wrong attitude. And I know that guys like, well, I don't know. I'm pretty confident that guys like Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio and Denzel Ward and Wyatt Teller and all David Njoku. I can go on and on. These guys don't want to make the playoffs. They want to win the Super Bowl. That's the goal for every winner in the NFL. It's not to be the best Browns team in 30 years. It's not to win more games than any Browns team in 30 years. Anything we say about the Browns in the last 30 years is an embarrassingly low bar. And to beat it is no accomplishment. Yes, the Browns were a joke forever, and they are no longer a joke. That's the first step, and they've taken it. And that's great. But it's the first step. It's far from the last. A couple of messages in the YouTube chat. Karen says, hi, Bull. Love all the channels. Much love to you and your family. You give realistic takes, wise takes, honest takes on all sports shows you're on, and I appreciate your point of view. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. All right. I do want to jump into baseball here for a few minutes. Guardians coming off a loss that looked eerily similar to their loss last Thursday, that I went to when they ended the homestand against Kansas City. They lost 4-3 with Bybee on the mound. Yesterday they lost 4-2 with Bybee on the mound. And the same thing happened. Bybee dominating and then kind of running out of gas in the sixth inning. We saw it again last night. I know a lot of people have been critical of Stephen Vogt's decision to leave Bybee in there because he gave up a couple of hits to start the fifth inning. His pitch count was high. But the batter before Candelario just had a great day. He had 2 homers, knocked in 4. But Bybee had just struck out the Reds' best player in Elly De La Cruz, the batter before that. So I can't kill him for keeping him in there. And you're in a way losing the battle to win the war. The Guardians are not getting enough innings from their starting pitching. It is going to, at some point, affect in a negative way the bullpen's dominance. You can't overwork a bullpen an entire season and expect them to be great at the end of the year. So they're going to need some breaks. The one of the biggest flaws in the Guardians right now is their rotation across the board has an inability to go deep in games. Right now, Tanner Bybee, even though Ben Lively has pitched the best, Tanner Bybee is the best starter on the Guardians right now. And at times he looks dominant, tons of strikeouts. The problem is, as he gets deeper into these games, I think, young strikeout pitchers sometimes try too hard to strike out guys. They work the edges a little more instead of saying, hey, try to beat me. I'm gonna throw my best stuff. You try to beat me. I'm not running away from you. And letting the defense make plays. The Guardians have an excellent defensive team, and they need to take advantage of it. And Tanner Bybee needs to be more efficient getting that third out of the inning. And it's 2 games in a row that he stalled out in the 6th inning, and eventually the Guardians lost. So I like Tanner Bybee, love everything about him. He's got tremendous stuff. He had 11 strikeouts yesterday. And as usual, the Pen did a great job after that. But they're going to need some innings from Bybee. I mean, he's really the only hope to get him deep into games right now. And so that's why Stephen Vogt said, hey, we talked about this against Minnesota. It worked. He tried to get him through a 6th in Kansas City. Couldn't do it. Tried to get him through a 6th last night in Cincinnati. Didn't do it. So the Guardians fall back to 20 games over 500 instead of 21. Fortunately, the Royals lost yet again to the Yankees, and they've dropped 4 in a row. So the Guardians remain 5.5 up on Kansas City, and 8 games up on Minnesota. The Twins did win a game yesterday, beating Colorado. I think it was like 17-8 or something. Guardians are off today, and they continue their road trip in Toronto this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then after that, they will begin a homestand. They're playing it's a tough homestand. They're playing Seattle and Toronto, 6-game set before they go back on the road. Anthony Pa says, just voted for Jose, Fry, Kwan, and Naylor all to go to the All-Star game. I know Naylor's been at a low average, but hopefully all those guys will get in. I think all 4 have a good Jose's definitely getting in the All-Star game. I think Kwan and Naylor very likely in the All-Star game. Fry, I'm not sure. Fry's 50-50. We'll see how he does. He doesn't have a set position, which makes it tricky. Had Kwan not missed a month, he'd be a lock. With his batting average, he's a near lock. Josh Naylor's going to the All-Star game. I know his batting average stinks lately. He's leading all first basemen in homers and ribbies. Unless I say completely craters, the batting average has, but the ribbies and home runs haven't. I'd be very surprised. If right now, today, Naylor, Kwan, Jose are going, I think, along with Clase. Fry, maybe, and that's it. Ben Lively's not going to the All-Star game. He's pitched well, but he hasn't pitched enough innings. He doesn't strike anybody out. He's not going to the All-Star game. I think the Guardians will have definitely 3, probably 4, maybe 5. Dave asked the question, when is the beard coming back? I don't know. I usually do winter beard. So I don't have a plan. I mean, I'm like, this is just like a couple days. I think I shaved on Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember. I'll probably shave. I shave like once a week or something like that. I don't know. But I'm not bringing the beard back till at least the fall. We'll see. Diver Bob 33, Bull, any word on Myles Garrett taking himself out of the D-line drills at the end of practice? I'll be honest, I did not see that, so I will look into it. I have not seen anything about that, about him pulling himself out. I'm sure it's nothing serious, because if it had been something serious, I would have seen the information. But I will. I'm not seeing anything on it. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Mary Kay did just tweet something out. So Myles Garrett tweaked his hamstring in practice. He did some upper body work, but was mostly just hanging out. So, yeah, looks like there's a minor injury here. I'm seeing some video of him doing some stretches. That'll be it. I mean, listen, we got a couple of months till the season starts. He should be fine. It's obviously not ideal that he tweaked a hamstring, but plenty of time. He doesn't need to do anything for at least 2 months, maybe 3. But, yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Good job out of you, Diver Bob, because I just had missed that, and now I see Mary Kay's tweet. So, yeah. So, it looks like he's okay. I'm seeing the video on him, but a hamstring tweak, they'll be obviously 3 months before the season, extremely cautious with Myles Garrett. So, not ideal, but doesn't seem like it's a big deal. If it was serious, he would have been back in the training room, and he was out on the field for the rest of practice, doing some upper body work, mostly hanging out. But the fact that he was doing any work at all after tweaking the hamstring signals that it's probably minor. They're not worried about it. And again, not playing a game that matters for nearly 3 months. Hamstrings take time to heal, obviously. It's not a perfect situation, but he should be fine. All right, thanks to everybody for joining me, watching and listening as always. We'll keep you up to date on the Cavs coaching situation. Obviously, it seems like they're down to 3 people, but nothing definitive from the Cavaliers at this point. Thanks for all the messages on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And please give the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thanks to Max for producing today. I'm off until Monday. I'll be back with another podcast on Monday. And we'll have an Ultimate Guardian show for you next week. I'm probably off. I'm planning to be off all next week on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, taking a week off. But I might end up coming in one day next week because we might have somebody special, some special guest. I'll let you know about it. Anyway, thanks to everybody again today. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers.